Alright, back to VHS tapes. Now, after my last movie review, I felt like doing something that wouldn't make my brain explode, and playing that Treasure Planet game last time got me thinking about that curious period of Disney movies in the early 2000s. It was a strange time for Disney. After a string of big hits throughout the 90s, their traditionally animated movies were beginning to enter a slump, and thanks to Pixar, CGI was rapidly becoming the hot new art form. And yet Disney still kept trying to pump out their traditional classics throughout the early 2000s, only these ended up being more experimental movies, some of them radically different in style from the usual Disney fairy tales. This is the weird era in which I grew up, a time when traditional animation and CGI were clashing together in a fight to the finish. Now it's time to revisit that period and look back on all those Disney classics of the early 2000s. Yes, it's the first ever movie marathon. 6 movies, 6 reviews, and probably more Disney than your stomach can take. Now, first of all, we have to set the ground rules here. The movies I'll be reviewing are the traditionally animated Disney classics from 2000 to 2004, so all those weird direct-to-video sequels sadly don't count. Their time will come another day. And true, Disney's Dinosaur did come out in 2000, but it's a CG movie, not traditionally animated. So thanks, but no thanks. Some people might also bring up Fantasia 2000, which, to be fair, does have the year 2000 in the title, but it was actually released in very late 1999. It's like a car, you know, it doesn't really count. And in any case, I always struggle to find that much to say about these anthology movies, so let's find a real story for us to sink our teeth into, and start things off with The Emperor's New Groove. I think it's safe to say this was a troubled production. This movie actually entered development in 1994, just after the release of The Lion King, and it was supposed to have a completely different title, Kingdom of the Sun. It was intended to be a huge Disney epic, but due to various issues with developing the right story for the film, it almost ended up getting cancelled outright by Disney executives. The original director, Roger Allers, ended up leaving the project, with his co-director, Mark Dindal, stepping in to completely redesign the entire movie. Much of the original concept was thrown out, and remade into an entirely new idea called, you guessed it, The Emperor's New Groove. There's a lot more I could say about the production of this movie, but there's only so many hours in the day, so I'd strongly recommend checking out the documentary The Sweatbox instead, which reveals a lot of what was going on at the time, and explains things in a much better way than I ever could.
The rumors are flying like crazy.
Randy had been fired, that Mark had been fired, that Roger had been fired.
Strangely, the documentary was directed by the wife of the musician Sting, who did the music for the movie, and it's fortunate that so much of the Disney drama was captured on camera.
So much of the movie isn't working. I just don't know who I'm supposed to care about, what I'm watching.
Surprisingly, Disney didn't take too kindly to releasing something so controversial, so the documentary was lost for years, but it's since been archived, so I'll leave a link in the video description. Well worth a watch if you're into that sort of thing. But here in the UK, it seems The Emperor's New Groove was seen as just the next big Disney film. Released here in February 2001, it opened at number 3 and ended up grossing 9.3 million overall, making it a pretty big success. In fact, you know what came out the same weekend? The Digimon movie. Now we know why it flopped. But for me personally, I never saw this movie growing up. I had one of those old Ladybird storybooks of it. Remember those? But I didn't actually see this film until I was about 15, so I don't quite have that childhood nostalgia for it. Like, I never really understood the title, The Emperor's New Groove? What is that, like Saturday Night Fever or something? It's exactly the type of thing some Disney marketing executive would come up with to make it sound all hip and early 2000s. If you thought it had anything to do with the fairy tale The Emperor's New Clothes, well, bad luck. But never mind the title, let's pop this tape in and get our groove on. As for the trailers, we run into that same old problem of stuff we've already seen before. Monsters Inc., seen it. Recess movie, already reviewed it. Snow White, yeah. We do, however, get an ad for the Emperor's New Groove video game for the PlayStation, which looks like yet another colourful platformer. I can't wait to lose my mind reviewing this someday. I do kind of like the funky music though. Cha-cha-cha. There's also an ad for Walt Disney World, which is basically just a shorter version of the same ad from the Toy Story 2 tape, only with a different narrator.
It's a year of celebration at Walt Disney World Resort in Florida.
Recycle that content, baby!
Visit the Walt Disney World Resort in Florida.
Just as a preface here, I'll be using HD clips for the movies from now on. To be honest, editing all that VHS audio is kind of a pain, and it's a lot easier to put these videos together when everything is more consistent. I'll still use the original VHS captures for the trailers and things like that, but now we can enjoy the movies in all their shiny glory. Now, on with the show. So we begin a long time ago in a jungle far, far away, where a very lonely llama sits in despair.
Well, you'll never believe this, but that llama you're looking at was once a human being. And not just any human being. That guy was an emperor.
This turns out to be Kuzco, played by David Spade, a selfish emperor who rules over a mighty kingdom where everything is all about him. But you don't need me to tell you this, just listen to his theme song.
He's the sovereign lord of the nation. He's the hippest cat in creation. He's the alpha, the omega, A to Z.
Like I said before, most of the songs were written by Sting, who offered some truly deep insights into the complexities behind his music.
This whole song is about, llamas.
The weird thing is that most of his songs written for Kingdom of the Sun ended up getting canned and put only on the soundtrack, so this is the only one that remains in the final film. It's not even sung by him. Apparently, Sting thought he sounded too old to sing a song like this, so they brought in a 60-year-old Tom Jones to record it instead.
What's his name?
Wow, that must have stung.
No! You threw off my groove!
Kuzco is what we would call a flawed protagonist. He just treats everyone like dirt, and even chucks an old man out of his palace for throwing off his groove.
Well, I threw off the Emperor's groove.
What?
His groove, the rhythm in which he lives his life.
Well, at least we finally get an explanation for that crazy title. One day, Kuzco gets a visit from a village man named Parcher, voiced by John Goodman. Just picture Sully without all the fur.
You can fix my problem, can't you?
Sure, I'll do what I can.
Good.
Kuzco plans to destroy Parcher's peaceful village and builds a giant theme park on top of it.
At my birthday celebration tomorrow, I give the word, and your town will be destroyed to make way for this.
Our hero, everyone.
Where will we live?
Don't know, don't care.
Parcher tries to convince Kuzco not to go through with it, but he doesn't listen and kicks Parcher out.
Oh yeah, everything was going my way.
You'd almost be forgiven for thinking Kuzco is the villain here. He's like the bratty prince from Beauty and the Beast if he just got away with everything. But no, the real villain is this girl, Yzma, one of Kuzco's advisors.
It is no concern of mine whether your family has... What was it again?
Food?
Ha! You really should have thought of that before you became peasants.
Of course, she's insanely jealous of Kuzco and plots to kill him so she can take over the kingdom for herself.
With him out of the way and no heir to the throne, I'll take over and rule the empire.
Yzma is quite a fun villain. She's voiced by Eartha Kitt, who clearly puts a lot of energy into the role.
Act of highest treason has but one punishment. Death! Take him away!
She's so crazy, it's like this character just walked straight out of a Cartoon Network show. In fact, that sums up this movie's sense of humor. It's more Looney Tunes than Disney. Very zany and energetic, already a sign that Disney was beginning to experiment with other styles in this era. Yzma also has a goon called Kronk, played by Patrick Warburton. Just picture Buzz Lightyear without the spacesuit.
How could he do this to me? Why, I practically raised him.
Yeah, I think he would have turned out better.
Kronk is also pretty amusing. He's a complete idiot, but in that endearing kind of way you can't help but enjoy.
Pull the lever, Kronk. Wrong lever!
After Yzma gets fired by Kuzco, she cooks up a plan to get rid of him for good, creating a potion that will kill Kuzco on the spot. Apparently, she's a mad scientist as well.
Now a moment of triumph approaches.
She invites Kuzco to dinner, who, for some reason, actually shows up. Who would do that? It's like he wants to be poisoned.
Tasty.
He's the sovereign lord of the nation. He's the hippest dude in creation.
But it turns out Kronk used the wrong potion, and Kuzco turns into a llama instead. That's quite a screw-up.
A llama? He's supposed to be dead!
Yeah, weird.
Yzma orders Kronk to get rid of Kuzco, so Kronk stuffs him in a bag, takes him to Hoover Dam, and drops him to his... Oh, wait, wrong movie. Instead, Kronk loses Kuzco, and he ends up on the back of Parcher's wagon. This is why you never trust a goon to do your dirty work.
Hope that doesn't come back to haunt me.
So we take a trip with Parcher to his village, which is just across one of those long bridges you always see in video games. I'm sure that won't be important later on. Parcher lives with his wife and 2 kids, who are just kind of there. They're not too funny or remarkable.
Dad's home!
They just seem to exist so Parcher has someone to care about. Alright, maybe the mother is a bit funny.
I'd give that guy a piece of my mind. That kind of behavior, I gotta go wash something.
I didn't know my mum was in this movie, but when Parcher discovers that Kuzco is now a llama, he reacts in the appropriate manner.
Demon llama!
Demon llama? Where?
Emperor Kuzco?
Yeah, Who do you think you were talking to?
Pacha offers to help Cusco get back home if he promises not to build his theme park, but Llama Boy isn't having it.
Build your summer home somewhere else.
I don't make deals with peasants!
Cusco decides to go it alone and gets lost in the jungle, where all kinds of horrible creatures are out to get him. But just as Cusco is about to get eaten by some angry panthers for din-dins, Pacha swoops in and saves Cusco, only for them to get stuck on a raging river. Wow, let me guess.
We're about to go over a huge waterfall.
Yep,
Sharp rocks at the bottom.
most likely.
The movie is sentient. They manage to survive the waterfall, but Cusco is unconscious, so Pacha decides it's a good time to try and get closer to him. Very close. How romantic.
Okay, that was the freakiest thing I've ever seen.
Meanwhile, Yzma takes over the kingdom and holds a funeral in Cusco's honor, where the entire crowd seem to be holding Atlantis crystals. Foreshadowing the next review?
Tell me Cusco's dead.
Do you need to hear all those words exactly?
He's still alive!
But when Kronk confesses that Cusco is still alive, Yzma sets out to hunt him down. Now that Cusco and Pacha have spent some time together, Cusco promises not to build his theme park if Pacha helps him, and they shake hands on it.
Saying you've changed your mind? Because you know that means you're doing something nice for someone else.
Finally, some character development for this guy.
Whoa! Help me up!
No, I don't think I will. I was gonna have you in prison for life, but I kinda like this better.
Well, that lasted about 2 seconds. And see, I told you that bridge would come back. With Pacha stuck in a deadly position, Cusco does the generous thing and leaves him to his doom.
So all of it was a lie?
The funny thing about shaking hands is, you need hands.
I'm starting to think Cusco really is the true villain of this story. He makes Yzma look like a Disney princess. But when Cusco gets stuck as well, the tables are turned, and both of them have to work together to make it back up to safety. Cusco even saves Pacha's life, grabbing him before he falls to his death.
You just saved my life.
What's the big deal? Nobody's that heartless.
Well, you had no problems with letting him die 2 minutes ago. Despite Cusco's questionable morality, the two become friends, and Pacha even carries Cusco so he doesn't have to walk. I'm beginning to wonder about Pacha here. I mean, the kiss, carrying him. We might be looking at a whole new Disney romance here. Cusco and Pacha make their way to a restaurant, where Cusco has to disguise himself so he doesn't attract attention.
We'll have 2 specials. Is that all right, dear?
Oh, whatever you say, Pumpkin. You know what I like.
I guess it wouldn't be a zany comedy movie without a llama dressing up as a woman, but while they tuck into Timon and Pumbaa's leftovers, Yzma and Kronk turn up at the same restaurant. Such conveniently bad luck.
Hi, don't I know you?
I don't think so.
Wrestled you in high school.
I don't remember that, no.
After a series of wacky mishaps and a third-rate Marx Brothers routine, Cusco and Pacha manage to escape the bad guys, but when Pacha tells Cusco that the two are out to get him, Cusco doesn't believe him.
They're trying to kill you.
Kill me? Their whole world revolves around me.
Is this guy not right in the head?
You don't want to take me back to the palace. You want to keep me stranded out here forever.
No!
Well, judging by the evidence, that might actually be true, but Cusco just isn't that into Pacha and abandons him to find Yzma and Kronk, only for him to learn the terrible truth.
There'll be no more diversions until we track that llama down and kill him.
What a shocker. So we finally learn why Cusco was looking so mopey at the beginning of the movie, all because he ended up falling into a trap set by an evil...
Who are you kidding, pal? They saw the whole thing. They know what happened.
I don't like it when the movie talks back to me, but while Pacha is out looking for another llama to cheat on, the two reunite, and Cusco apologizes for being such a royal pain.
You tired of being a llama?
Yes!
The pair race back to the palace, but Yzma and Kronk are hot on their trail. Well, really, they aren't. Cusco and Pacha are way ahead of them, and they reach Yzma's secret lab first. Or do they?
Looking for this?
How did you get back here before us?
Well, you got me. By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
The movie's alive. Alive, I tell you. Yzma orders Kronk to kill Cusco, but she makes the biggest mistake in the book, insulting one of her own goons.
It's like I'm talking to a monkey. Really, really big, stupid monkey named Kronk.
After grappling with his demons, in plain sight, Kronk decides to help the heroes and drops a chandelier on top of Yzma, which does absolutely nothing.
Strange. That usually works.
Alright, this movie's sense of humor has won me over now. This is when things really get crazy. Everyone fights over the potion that will turn Cusco back into a human, Cusco keeps turning into different animals, and the whole thing is more hyperactive than an episode of SpongeBob. Are you sure this movie wasn't made by Nickelodeon?
It's gotta be one of these.
And just to cap off this parade of weirdness, Yzma turns herself into a kitty cat. A very evil little kitty cat.
Once I turn back into my beautiful self, I'm going to kill you!
How adorably psychotic. Yzma finally gets her, claws on the human potion, but ends up falling to her doom in the classic Disney tradition. Only for her to bounce off a random trampoline and fall up to her doom. That's pretty original. Yzma drops the potion, and Kuzco and Pacha have to work together once again to reach it. A pairing written in the stars.
See ya on the other side.
Kuzco drinks the potion and finally turns back into a human, now as a much nicer emperor who's generous to everyone. He even decides not to build his theme park and lives next to Pacha instead.
Looks like you and your family are stuck on the tuneless hilltop forever, pal.
This is a lot better than the original ending to the movie, where Kuzco actually would have built his theme park anyway and destroyed Pacha's village, which would have only, ruined the entire point of Kuzco's character arc. This was such a bad idea. Sting actually wrote a letter to the makers pleading with them to change the ending.
When you've achieved genuine human values, you don't need a theme park or a water slide. I've been aware for a while now that my vision of the world and Disney's may be at odds, but there's something intrinsically faulty with this film. And I find it very difficult to continue working on something that goes against my beliefs.
Good thing they listened. So instead, Kuzco now has a family of his own, Kronk is teaching kids how to speak squirrel, don't ask, and Yzma is now stuck as a cat. Cue a slow sentimental Sting song to end the movie, which doesn't really fit.
In the quiet time of evening, when the stars assume their pattern.
I'm all for a cheesy early 2000s song, but after such a zany comedy, this just feels out of place. It's more like a love song. But then again, maybe Sting was drawn to the more subtle, simmering romance of the film instead. What do you think, buddy?
Llamas.
So that was The Emperor's New Groove, and frankly, given the production hell this movie went through, I'm amazed it even got made at all. It's a very funny movie. You can tell Disney decided to just go for a straight-up comedy here and pile on the humour, but that does make everything feel a bit on the basic side. There's not that much depth to the characters or the plot, and like I said, it feels a bit more like something you'd see on Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon rather than a big screen Disney movie. More TV than cinematic, which is funny since they did end up making a direct-to-video sequel, Kronk's New Groove, in 2005, and a 2006 TV show for the Disney Channel called The Emperor's New School, where, shockingly, Kuzco has to go back to high school. How original. So, watching this movie back, I suppose it's lacking that epic quality they originally intended with Kingdom of the Sun, though to be fair, having seen the documentary, it seems like the original movie was getting way too complex, and I can see why they ended up having to change it, going in the complete opposite direction to make it a straight comedy instead. It's possible they could have found a better middle ground somewhere between the two, but in the end, they did come up with a very entertaining, fast-paced movie to show for all their hard work, which is a lot better than throwing up a complete mess on the screen. It might not be a timeless classic, but it's definitely still a lot of fun. Get groovy and check it out for yourself. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you next time, because Atlantis is waiting.